Aaron Rodgers, the enigma for the NFL as we try to figure out what he's going to do for 2023, just like we figured out what he was going to do for 2021 and what he's going to do for 2022. He did say, though, he's not going to hold the team hostage. I think he makes a decision like last year, Chris, before the new league year begins in the middle of March.
Yeah. I mean, I think so too. Again, I don't think he's trying. That's where I've heard a few people, lately, like Brett Favre, and I know we've done this. This is not like Brett Favre. That's not fair to do to Aaron Rodgers. Listen, there's a lot of things we can be annoyed with and talk about Aaron Rodgers. It's not the same. This is, again, we got to remind everybody, Green Bay made this bet. This is Green Bay. They are the ones that drafted Jordan Love and started this whole charade here. Right? So that's where everybody's got to remember that. But nonetheless, is he a little bit of a pain in the butt at times? Sure, of course. And I don't know where this is going to go. I'm expecting him to come back one more year. I guess that's what I feel here. But, I think there's, the play was not great this year. I think you can question even his attitude and leadership to a degree, a little bit, at least the way it looked, the optics of it at times. And, they got to figure out where they're going as a whole here as an organization. He's got to talk to Gutekunst and LaFleur, and they got to figure out what their offseason plan of attack is, if he is going to come back, and all of those type of things. But I don't think he's going to, hold them hostage or draw this out for a long time.
And to the extent that anyone out there is saying, wait a minute, the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers in round 1 while Brett Favre still had 3 years left. They drafted Rodgers because Brett Favre was doing the annual, when am I going to go? When am I going to stay? We better be prepared for this guy to walk away because we don't know when he's going to walk away.
Right.
And then after 3 years of Aaron Rodgers on the bench, they decided to encourage Favre to leave so they could pivot to the guy that they had drafted. Rodgers had said all along he wants to spend his whole career with Green Bay. He wants to play into his 40s and spend his whole career with Green Bay. And then out of the blue, they draft Jordan Love. That's what started this whole mess in April of 2020, which has resonated now for nearly 3 years. Here's Matt LaFleur, coach of the Packers, from Monday, talking about whether he has spoken to Aaron Rodgers about his future.
How much will you be communicating with Aaron Rodgers these next few weeks, and thoughts on the possibility that he might have played his last game in a Packers uniform?
Yeah, I really don't want to get into in terms of that thought right now until I sat down with him and had a conversation. So I talked to him briefly after the game last night. We're going to plan on getting together sometime this week and sit down and just you guys talked to him last night. So.
You said that you want Aaron back. From just about any way you look at it, he had his least productive season of his career. He also turns 40 next year. What have you seen to want him back and inspire belief that he can lead this team to where you want to go?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of variables in play this year. I really do. And sure, are there some things that he could have done better? Absolutely. Just like there's some things that I know I could have done better, and you can go right down the line to every coach, to every player, and there were a lot of new pieces in there, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others, and certainly we got to have some great conversations in regards to where we go with our scheme and what it is we're going to do.
At one point during the season, Peter King and I squabbled over the question of whether or not Aaron Rodgers should have been there for the offseason program. And my relationship with Peter is a lot like my relationship with you. We rarely argue, but when we do, it gets spirited.
Yeah.
We had a spirited conversation, Peter and I did on one Friday, because Peter's like, it doesn't matter. And then as the Packers bottomed out, Peter came around and said, you know what? If he comes back for 2023, the Packers need to say to him, we need you to be all in. We need you to be here. We need you to make the full and complete and total commitment. And I think that's the message the Packers need to send. To the extent that Aaron Rodgers truly regards it as a mutual decision, and it isn't because he holds all the cards, $60 million fully guaranteed for next year. All he's got to do is say, I'll be there, and I don't have to come to the offseason program, the voluntary portion of it. I can skip the mandatory minicamp if I want to, too. I'll pay you the fine. You can't take away my $60 million if I choose not to be there. I think if the Packers have a say in this, their say needs to be, let's do this right. If this really is the last year, we need you to be here. We need you to be involved. We need you to help make any new pieces of the team, whether it's rookies, whether it's veterans, whether it's people we trade for, whoever it may be. We need you to be here to get comfortable with them, because don't you see what happened this year? It took us too long to get the young guys comfortable with you because you weren't here. And when they finally got comfortable with you, look at what we did. If we could just do that earlier, by just a week or two, we're in the playoffs. And again, this is astounding to me, because you think smart people don't do dumb things, but sometimes, Chris, really smart people will do dumb things.
Yeah.
And this was among the dumbest
themselves.
I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers do. The least self-aware. The idea that these guys who were 9, 10 years old when he won the Super Bowl and idolized him their whole lives weren't going to pee down their legs at the prospect of working with Aaron Rodgers. You got to get comfortable. You got to make them comfortable. And it took them a while to get comfortable, because this guy, larger than life.
Yeah.
And demanding, like most quarterbacks are, with a high standard. And it's going to make you nervous. It's going to make you drop a wide-open pass on your first play from scrimmage as an NFL regular season athlete. It's understandable that Christian Watson dropped it. He was
100%.
freaked out because he didn't know Aaron Rodgers yet.
Yeah, no, they admitted they were peeing down their leg. I mean, when as far as their interactions with Rodgers, wanting to please him, do all of that, right? There was the conversations, right, a few weeks ago. I can't remember what game it was. They felt like the season changed when Rodgers started having meetings regularly with the receivers, right? Then they started to get to know him as a person. Forget what they liked on film and do this and do that. They got to hear him as a guy talk to them a little bit. And I'm sure they got to joke around and, shoot the crap and do all that type of stuff. To where, it makes you comfortable. Now, okay, hey, let's go have a catch. And now you feel like you're with your friend out on the football field. There is something to that. And, Mike, I'm 100% with you. He's got to be there in the offseason. You're the quarterback of the football team. You are bigger than life. You're making $50 million a year, right? The quarterback of the football team, be there, right? You're supposed to be the leader of the team, and that's going to get everybody to step in line anyways. Then you're Aaron Rodgers. You're great. You're there working. It gets everybody else to work harder, let alone it improves the energy in the building. And it's not that you got to be there every day. You don't got to be there for every weightlifting session and all the running. I get that. But gosh, if you could just be there for the OTAs and the mandatory minicamp and then just some of the workout sessions, it's going to go over big time with the football team, And Green Bay, you could say what you want, but they do not have the feeling of closeness as a football team, I feel like, as compared to some of the other teams we see in football. I don't get that same sense, Mike, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong here or whatever, but I don't feel the same camaraderie as in Buffalo or in Kansas City that I see there, or Joe Burrow with his guys and cigars in the locker room and hanging out. I don't see that in Green Bay, and I think that's, to what you're talking about, a little bit of the problem or the issue.
At one point this season, Juju Smith-Schuster, who had to get adjusted to a new team, a new city, a new quarterback, a new coaching staff, a new everything, he said that he and Patrick Mahomes and other players would play Call of Duty together.
Exactly.
And it actually helped
strengthen
their bonds. Even though they're not in the same room together, they're interacting, they're talking to each other, they're learning more about each other. It's all about the time you spend, the relationships you cultivate. Those little things, you can't draw a straight line to it. It's a very dotted, vague line. And there may not even be a line. It's just the idea that the more you know someone, the more you care about someone, the more you understand them, little flashes, little moments, little things can happen that make a difference when you're out there in that 3 hours of action, which is very intermittent and quick and goes like that. It can make a difference. And look, I was wrestling with whether or not to articulate this, but I'm going to go ahead and say this.
Yeah.
I'm really too old to give a crap anymore. I assume Aaron Rodgers is going to do his Tuesday thing with McAfee today, and it would be great if he was pressed on this, if there was a real conversation, not something framed passive-aggressively to make us look like we're full of shit for raising it, like they would ordinarily do. I'm talking about a real conversation with real questions to draw out. Does Aaron Rodgers agree with this? And if he doesn't, why doesn't he agree with it? Why does he disagree with the idea that he should have been there during the offseason when he's getting $50 million a year? Why does he disagree with the idea that these young receivers needed to be around him and get to know him and spend time with him and get less freaked out by him. It's very real. Why were you having meetings? Remember when he went on McAfee's show and crapped all over the very well-sourced and reported article from Kalen Kaler of The Athletic that had every source on the record and all that stuff flopping around in a boat, making no sense in this blind attack on an article I just don't like? I know it's wishful thinking. I know we're not going to see it, and I know we're not going to hear it. But it really would be nice, and I just trust that the consumers out there understand what they're getting and what they're not getting. But it's not a real dialogue. It's not an effort to really press this guy on things that would be illuminating as to the past or the future.
Right.
But let me tell you something. If Aaron Rodgers is thinking about coming back, and if he truly wants to walk away with a Super Bowl championship, these are things that someone needs to press him on. That someone. Now, I guess he could be my nephew too, although hey, I'd probably be the uncle he never talks to. But somebody, I think that's the biggest problem for a lot of these highly achieving individuals. They get to a point where there's no one in their life to tell them things they need to hear.
Right.
And that's something he needs to hear if he's going to come back for next year. And it can't just be, those guys are full of crap. Okay, fine. Go ahead and come back for another year and don't win the Super Bowl. Fine. Go ahead.
No, I hear you there. You're right. Oh, that's where I look at Tom Brady, and he had like Bill Belichick and Bruce Arians to be that guy for him a little bit. And I don't know if that goes on in Green Bay just because, Matt LaFleur being a younger head coach and then him going there where Rodgers was already established made things a little differently or a little different in that perspective. But, the other thing, Mike, I find really interesting here too is a little bit, what LaFleur said when he talked about, we have to system direction and that type of stuff. That's another thing that's got to get figured out. And to your point, Mike, gets figured out in the offseason. It gets figured out in OTAs. Wait, I don't like that play. Or, I think with this group here, after a few OTAs, I think we could play this way a little bit. This makes sense for us and what we got here. Let's start to toy with some plays along that frame of thinking here. That's the other thing that gets lost in this. And that's where they got to figure it out because, they got to make sure Rodgers is comfortable. What we saw this year is the day and age, and we saw it a little at the end of last year, the day and age of Rodgers being able to carry the team or do more than what's expected. That's over. There has to be a little bit of a formula of help here for him now. He can still throw it. We know that. But they got to make him feel comfortable and protected because that's the one thing we saw this year. I mean, it was glaring. You can go to any game. It showed up again the other night, and we could show about 10, 12 plays. Him, I don't know what he's looking at other than the pass rush. Him not cutting the ball loose or throwing the ball with authority. I mean, it was a lot of missed throws and open people throughout the whole year and yards and plays left on the field. And that's where they got to figure out the system stuff, too, so he can feel comfortable to cut it loose. Like, come on. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, we've never seen these type of throws. That was underthrown by 25 yards. I mean, there was a touchdown, early fourth quarter to Aaron Jones to be had that was underthrown and got knocked away at like the 2-yard line. So, he needs to work, too, and needs to be there to feel comfortable so he can cut it loose for 2023.
There's some parallels to him and Kyler Murray. We talked about Kyler Murray earlier, the extent to which he needs to make the commitment to become as great as he can be. This is the other side of the coin. This is a guy who got himself into some sort of a Shakespearean struggle with the front office after they drafted Jordan Love. He got upset. It became bigger than football. It became about winning. It became about proving them wrong.
Personal,
it became
right?
About sticking it
right.
to Brian Gutekunst, right? He allowed it to become personal. He allowed his own individual goals and team goals to take a second seat to his desire to go F somebody up. And he won the MVP, and it gave him power, and he uses that power, and he still uses that power. And I think at some level, and, to the extent that, this is psychologically fascinating. There's a little element of self-destruction here where he's willing to hurt his own legacy and best interest just to prove a point, right? You shouldn't have messed with me, and I don't care if it keeps me from winning a Super Bowl, because they're not going to blame me. They're going to blame you for us not winning a Super Bowl. I'm still one of the greatest of all time. I have the highest touchdown-interception ratio in league history. I can make the argument I'm better than Tom Brady. You're the ones that look like you failed because you tried to do this to me. You used a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick on a guy who's never going to play while I'm here. There's just some weird stuff, and that's why I feel like at some level Green Bay, the organization, I mean, the guy's going to be gone at some point. There's something to be said for just being done with it. But the problem is, last year, he had him over a barrel, and they gave him a contract that gives him all the power this year. He's got all the power. He can say publicly he's not going to hold him hostage.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants.
We'll see. We'll see. He can do it. He's got $60 million fully guaranteed. All he's got to say is, I'm not doing anything different. I work here. You told me all these years you just work here. Well, guess what, guys? I just work here, and I don't show up for work on my days off. So you get through the offseason program, and I'm not required to be here. I'll see you at training camp. It's up to you to put a team around me that is successful. And if you don't, it ain't my fault. I just work here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not what he does because, like you said, that's self-destructive. It's going to do nothing good for him and his overall legacy there. And, you know, the other thing we haven't hit on here is there's potential. There's potential for them to be something on the offensive side of the ball. Their O-line's healthy. It's a good O-line. We know they can run the ball. And then these two receivers they got, they might be talented enough to go put them on the, over the edge to go, you know what? I am going to come back. This could be a formula that I can succeed in if we do this the right way. Because Christian Watson, by all due accounts, it looks like he's about to be a superstar. He's can run by anybody in football. And Romeo Doubs, we know he's really good as well. So that could be a very interesting combination, and that's why we'd want Aaron Rodgers there in the offseason, because you can maximize something, I think, there that could be dangerous and open up a lot of eyes next year and give you a second wind to your career a little bit.
And there will be changes in the receiving corps. Alan Lazard won't be back.
I don't think so.
They're not going to pay Alan Lazard to come back. They're not going to franchise tag him. He's going to be gone, so there'll be new pieces there. It's going to be the same thing all over again. The question is he willing to make the commitment, or does he just want to keep sticking it to someone as retribution for past offenses when someone dared to frustrate and upset the great and powerful wizard of Aaron Rodgers? All right, let's take a break. A week ago, it seemed like the news couldn't get much worse about Damar Hamlin. Here we are today, and the news keeps getting better and better and better. We'll give you the latest on Bills safety Damar Hamlin right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.